The question of fear has arisen a couple of times over the last couple of newsletters and videos. The point is that we are actually almost afraid of our own shadows because, as people often say to me, I am my own worst enemy. And people often fear, or should fear, their own worst enemy. Fear, you might say to yourself, is a big word to use. Surely I'm talking about worry and anxiety. But worry and anxiety lead to panic and stress, and ultimately they're all on what might be described as the fear scale. We are afraid of failing. We are afraid of making a fool of ourselves, or as Irish people say, making an idiot out of ourselves. We are afraid of change. We are afraid of things that might happen that we don't want to happen, which of course leads to stress. And ultimately, as I said a minute ago, we're afraid of ourselves. One of the most interesting ones, though, is that we are just as afraid of success as we are of failure. The number of people who have said to me, I'm afraid of being too successful, what will my friends think of me? Or if I change in a certain way because I have become more successful, how will people view me? Will people start thinking of me differently? Will people not want to be around me? Will some of my friends drop me? Now, of course, if some of your friends drop you, were they really friends in the first place at all? But it's an interesting point, because as highly evolved creatures, we evolved in a way to ensure that we stay with the herd, that we don't put our head up above the parapet, that we don't wander too far away lest a man-eating or a woman-eating tiger leaps from the bushes and ends it all. The problem is, as I say, we're afraid of almost anything that moves, including the long shadow cast by our own conceptual self, or what you and I normally call our personality. There's really only one thing, though, that needs to be said about fear, regardless of what shape, form or size it comes in. Fear is just a thought. Another one of those useless thoughts. A big, bad, hairy, useless thought, but nevertheless, just a thought. The interesting thing is, though, the thought that brings about fear may not be a negative thought. It could be a positive thought. Like, as somebody said to me a couple of years ago, he started thinking about how well he would look in a new BMW. But unfortunately, a load of negative thoughts leaped on top of that positive thought, to the point where he immediately began to think of the extent to which he couldn't afford the BMW, he probably couldn't afford the holiday he'd booked for himself, he possibly couldn't afford his children's school fees, and ultimately, if things didn't go according to plan, he probably couldn't afford his mortgage and would end up homeless. The problem is with any thought, and fear is just another one of those thoughts, is that once one of them bites you and you don't shake it off, there's a load of other little buggers waiting to bite you too, and you end up being almost mugged by your own thoughts. Stop it! Stop being afraid. Stop being afraid of doing new things. Stop being afraid of standing up and saying to all and sundry, this is me and this is what I want to achieve. Stop letting your own thoughts hold you back, because in reality they are the only things that are holding you back.